Welcome back to the Late Night Madness on W Fool Radio. You tune into the only show where chaos comes complimentary. The only duo brave enough to talk nonsense with conviction. Ladies and gentlemen, Shabba, Kate, two talking fools.
I'm the loudmouth legend, static crack transmitter, spitting hot takes.
We are just two average, and I mean average girls taking their phone calls to the podcast. Hey, you guys, welcome back. Two Talking Fools. We've been doing this for about 2 years now, 2 years in July, close to 200 episodes, streaming all over the world, fans all over the world. It's pretty amazing. So welcome back. Got a lot of exciting things coming down the pipeline, both community projects and worldwide global things going on for our listeners out there. So we've slightly changed temporarily the podcast format and layout, just in the sense that we're testing shorter podcasts, 15 minutes, 13 minutes, 18 minutes, 10 minutes. And it seems like you guys love that. And I understand why, because we're the generation of, we can't settle into something too long. Everything's busy. So it seems like the shorter form content's pretty great. So today, with everything I just said, I want to do a deep dive today into 3 Mile Island. Okay. One of the most famous nuclear incidents in our history, in American history. And I want to get into that today. Now, for the record, I'm not sure. When I was talking to my sister, the nuclear that was going to be coming, potentially set to come to our town, that was back in the early 90s. And, obviously 3 Mile Island, that's going back even further. I'm not sure if there's any correlation or not. It's hard to do a lot of research when it's hard to get newspaper articles and such. But let's talk about 3 Mile Island. Even people who know very little about nuclear energy have heard the name, and it has become almost symbolic of nuclear fear in the United States. But what is fascinating is that when you really look into the details, the story is so much more complicated than most people even realize. The accident involved mechanical failures, confusing control systems, human interpretation errors, and a massive wave of public fear fueled by the media. And today we're going to walk through the entire timeline, what nuclear power looked like in the 70s, exactly what happened on March 28th, 1979, the statistics behind the accident, and what the site looks like today, more than 4 decades later. To understand 3 Mile Island, we first need to understand the nuclear energy boom of the 1960s and the 1970s. At the time, nuclear power was widely considered the future of electricity. By 1979, the United States had more than 70 operating nuclear reactors and over 100 additional reactors either planned or under construction. Nuclear plants produced enormous amounts of electricity using uranium fuel rods. A single uranium fuel pellet about the size of a fingertip contains the same amount of energy as roughly 1 ton of coal, or about 150 gallons of oil. Because nuclear plants produce electricity without burning fossil fuels, they were seen as a way to reduce air pollution and dependence on imported oil. By the late 1970s, nuclear plants were producing about 12% of America's electricity, and that number was expected to rise dramatically. 3 Mile Island is located in the Susquehanna River near Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. The site had 2 reactors, Unit 1 and Unit 2. Unit 1 began operating in 1974. Unit 2 began operating in late 1978, just months before the accident. Each reactor produced roughly 900 megawatts of electricity, enough power for hundreds of thousands of homes. Like most nuclear reactors in the United States, the plant used what's called a pressurized water reactor design. This type of reactor relies on water both to cool the reactor core and to transfer heat to steam turbines that generate electricity. Cooling is absolutely critical. Without constant cooling, the water circulating through the system, temperatures in the reactor can rise extremely quickly. The morning of March 28th, 1979, at approximately 4 a.m., a series of small mechanical problems began unfolding inside Unit Number 2. A pump responsible for supplying water to the steam generators shut down unexpectedly. The loss of that pump caused the reactor to automatically shut down in a process known as SCRAM, SCRAM. Control rods dropped into the reactor core and halted the nuclear chain reaction. That part of the safety system worked exactly as intended. However, shutting down the reactor caused pressure inside the system to rise. To relieve that pressure, a valve known as the pilot-operated relief valve opened. The problem was that the valve became stuck opened, and the control room instruments incorrectly showed that it had closed. Because the valve remained opened, cooling water slowly escaped from the reactor system. But the operators in the control room believed the system was still sealed. Over the next several hours, coolant levels inside the reactor dropped. And as coolant levels fell, temperatures inside the reactor core began rising dramatically. At one point, the plant's emergency core cooling system automatically activated to restore water levels. However, because of confusing instrument readings, operators believed the reactor actually had too much water. So they manually reduced the emergency cooling flow, a decision that allowed the reactor core to overheat. Inside the reactor, temperatures eventually rose high enough to damage the nuclear fuel. Roughly half of the reactor core had melted. This event is known as a partial meltdown. Fortunately, the reactor was enclosed inside a massive contaminant building made of steel and concrete. These contaminant structures are designed specifically to prevent radioactive material from escaping into the environment. At 3 Mile Island, the contaminant system performed exactly as designed and prevented a much larger disaster. During the accident, another unexpected problem appeared. Chemical reactions inside the overheated reactor produced hydrogen gas. A hydrogen bubble formed inside the reactor vessel. Hydrogen gas can be explosive, so scientists worried that the bubble might ignite and cause a catastrophic explosion. For several days, the entire country watched the news, wondering if the plant might explode. Eventually, engineers determined the bubbles was stable and unlikely to ignite. Despite relatively low radiation releases, public fear spread quickly. Within days, approximately 140,000 people voluntarily evacuated the surrounding region. Schools closed and highways became crowded with people leaving the area. The governor of Pennsylvania recommended that pregnant women and young children temporarily evacuate as a precaution. Another factor amplified the panic. Just days before the accident, a movie called The China Syndrome had been released. The film told the fictional story of a nuclear reactor meltdown. The timing made the accident feel eerily similar to the movie. Now, despite the meltdown, the amount of radiation released was relatively small. The average radiation exposure for nearby residents was 1 millirem. For context, the average American receives about 300 millirem of radiation each year from natural background sources like cosmic rays, soil, and even certain foods. A chest X-ray exposes a person to about 10 millirem. In other words, the radiation exposed from the 3 Mile Island accident was lower than many common medical procedures. Long-term studies conducted by federal and state health agencies found no clear increase in cancer rates in the surrounding population. The cleanup of Unit 2 became one of the most complex nuclear cleanup operations ever performed. The process lasted from 1979 until 1993, roughly 14 years. During the cleanup, more than 100 tons of damaged nuclear fuel was removed. Thousands of tons of contaminated water were filtered and treated. Radioactive waste was shipped to long-term storage facilities. The total cost of cleanup was approximately $1 billion. Even though the physical impact of the accident was limited, the political impact was enormous. Public trust in the nuclear power dropped sharply. Construction of nuclear plants slowed dramatically across the United States. Regulators introduced stricter safety requirements and new training programs for reactor operators. The accident also led to the creation of the Institute of Nuclear Power Operations, an organization dedicated to improving nuclear safety and oversight. 3 Mile Island today still sits quietly along the Susquehanna River. The damaged Unit 2 reactor remains sealed and permanently shut down. Unit 1 continued to produce electricity until 2019 when it closed due to economic pressures from cheaper natural gas energy. But most of the radioactive material from the accident has been removed. The site is monitored, but largely inactive. For more than 40 years later, the 3 Mile Island accident remains one of the most studied industrial accidents in history. It demonstrated how complex technology, human decisions, and confusing information can combine to create a crisis. But it also proved something important. Nuclear containment systems can work. The lessons learned from 3 Mile Island reshaped nuclear safety around the world. And so I want to bring it to you guys. What would you do, or how do you feel about nuclear? And if you don't live near a nuclear plant or a nuclear containment facility, would you feel okay? Would you feel nervous living by one, or would you feel totally fine? It's funny, you don't hear so much about it today except for the 3 Mile Island, you hear about Chernobyl, but you don't hear about things like this too much today. Just another interesting thing right out of Pennsylvania. And the funny thing is when we talk to people, a lot of people have never heard of 3 Mile Island. But there's a documentary out that you can watch. And so now you know a little bit more. And if you see the documentary, let us know. I'd love to know your feedback on that. Every day, it amazes me every day. I know social media is going to be the demise of us all. But for as much negativity that comes out of it, don't you learn so much too? I learn every day. It's my favorite thing to do, learn about new things, and then given the opportunity to bring it to the podcast is something special. And I just love learning about these different things together. Yesterday, we did a podcast on the American Mall. And I don't know, maybe that's not exciting to everybody, but these are changes that are happening in our world. Sometimes I don't feel like we stay present enough, so we don't hone in on these things that are going on. So maybe this is our 15 minutes of saying, hey, let's learn a little bit about what's around us. So now you know a little bit more about 3 Mile Island. And that's all I got for you guys today. The sun is shining, like I said. Going to go back and enjoy the rest of the day. We've got some exciting topics coming for you next. I've got some more to push out. Make sure you stay tuned. Right now, we're doing a giveaway. If you leave us a Google review between now and Sunday, you'll be entered in to win some merch if you're chosen. So there's that going on and much more. Two Talking Fools. You can find us at twotalkingfools.com. We're on all the social media platforms, and we'll make you laugh and we'll make you think, and we'll be your best buds. All right, guys. That's it for me and Shaba. Have a blessed day. Take care of yourselves. Be nice to people. Be kind to people. Be kind to yourself. Be kind to yourself. All right? Love you guys. Peace.
But beloved, that's truth. Can't keep it clean, but I still shake the booth. City lights humming, vinyl breathing cool. Two talking fools. Breaking rules while they laugh and cruise. Everybody tunes in cause they love these fools. Do I flip in the boom bap fuel? Turn it up loud for the talking fools. Do I flip in the boom bap fuel? Turn it up loud for the talking fools. We spinning stories like vinyl gold. Yeah, tape is warming up every episode. We don't stay on cue, we just go where it flows. Chaos in control.